Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio's The Incoherent Ramblings of C&E. Christopher and Eric are your hosts, coming to you live from Greensboro, North Carolina, as we do every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Our intro music is provided from the Podshow PodSafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com. Also, feel free to email your topics for discussion, suggestions, and comments to incoherentramblings@live.com.
Hello, it is November the 5th, Thursday, and it's 4 o'clock. Actually, a few minutes after 4. It's just me, Christopher, and I am, extremely discombobulated. So if I'm all over the place, I'm sorry. Eric is not joining me today. I hated to cancel the show. I hate to even have it at a different time than we normally have it. We have a couple very loyal listeners that listen every week live. Most of our listening fan base is going to be downloaded and from the web, either by iTunes or our website or something like that. But we do have some loyal listeners that are so gracious to be here every week and sit through what we have going on. If you are listening and if you happen to drop by and you aren't scared away, you can call in at 646-716-6928. You also have the capability of going to blogtalkradio.com/incoherent ramblings to find out all of our information as far as our show dates and times, past shows you can listen to, streaming, or download, MySpace, Facebook, and Twitter information. And you can also go to iTunes and find our show there, subscribe to it. It's free of charge, of course. We couldn't imagine you paying for this stuff. Anyhow, we are well connected into the World Wide Web. So we do appreciate all our listeners, and I do apologize again for changing our usual time last second. I'm just now noticing I named the segment 6 to 7. I kind of did it on the fly. It's been a hectic week for me, and and for those of you who listen on a regular basis know that my co-host Eric is currently refurbishing and getting a house ready to move because he has to move out of the house he's currently in. And several of our listeners have chronicled that as we've moved along with that. So for our regular listeners, thank you for sticking there with us and for putting up with me flying solo, and for any possible new listeners that may come our way. It's usually not just me. It is called the Incoherent Ramblings of C&E, so that would be Christopher and Eric. I am Christopher, and it's a lot more dynamic with the two of us because we can play off each other, and I usually also don't sound as depressed or whatever as I sound right now, but I'm very tired. I've been working a lot, have not slept a lot, have not slept well when I have slept, and in addition to all that, I'm having a fairly frustrating day at work. So this is not your common situation. Oh, we have a listener here, Tony in Ohio, has just informed me that there's a tragedy going on at Fort Texas. Oh my goodness. Wow. At least 7 people are dead, 12 are wounded. Sounds like there's a gunman that's has just gone, maybe snapped or something. I'm not sure. I don't have time to read through this right now. But hopefully the authorities there will get that under control really, really quickly, and to avoid any possible further casualties. I always hate to hear something like that. Thank you, Tony in Ohio. I don't have a television here in my studio. I don't have access to that, but I will definitely, I'm monitoring it here on the internet, and I will we'll check that out as soon as the show is over. It's not really, we try here on our show, we try not to be political or get on rants, but it usually happens anyhow. So be it. As our loyal listeners know, we have made an attempt to maybe have a little good news story here and there. Start off the show with some good news. Sometimes the good news is hard to come by. And this week, the only additional good news item that I saw, honestly, was about odd animals that have become friends with each other. All the rest of them were from last week, so nothing to share there, and that's a little frustrating. So, in addition to good news, heroic deeds, things such as that, excuse me, we also have a thing where we try to keep it positive, if nothing else, at least funny. Sometimes odd, weird, strange, but we still go for stories that we think are kind of humorous. Maybe they are only humorous to me and Eric, I don't know. So this week, I have several stories, and I will, I'm sure I will ramble incoherently in between them. But the first story I have here is the title of the story really caught my attention. Bricklayer shows up at his own funeral in Brazil. I mean, that's not something you hear on a regular basis. This comes to us, the story from Rio de Janeiro. A Brazilian bricklayer reportedly killed in a car crash shocked his grieving family by showing up alive at his funeral. His relatives had identified him as a victim of a Sunday night car crash in southern Brazil. As is customary in Brazil, the funeral was held the following day, which happened to be the holiday of Finados, when Brazilians visit cemeteries to honor the dead. What family members didn't know was that Goncalves had spent the night at a truck stop talking with friends over drinks of a sugarcane liquor known as cachaca. His niece Rosa told the newspaper. He did not get word about his own funeral until it was already happening Monday morning. A police spokesman in the town of Santo Antonio de Platina said Goncalves rushed to the funeral to let his family members know he was not dead. The corpse was badly disfigured but dressed in similar clothing, said the police spokesman, who talked on condition of anonymity. People are afraid to look for very long when they identify bodies. I think that's what happened in this case. His niece told the newspaper that some family members were not sure the body was his. My 2 uncles and I had doubts about the identification, she told the newspaper. But an aunt and 4 of his friends identified the body, so what were we to do? We went ahead with the funeral. The police spokesman confirmed there were doubts. His mom looked at the body in the casket and said they thought something was strange. She looked and looked and couldn't believe it was her own son. Before long, the Walking Dead appeared at the funeral. It was a relief. The body was correctly identified later Monday, the police spokesman said, and has already been buried in another state. He declined to release the actual victim's name. Well, good news for the family. They were mourning and grieving the loss of their family member, only to find out that it wasn't actually him. It reminds me, I was watching, I'm fairly certain it was Twilight Zone, one of the older Twilight Zones. It was a black and white episode, and there was this, it was like a western town that had been, it started up, from the ground up, and had, your standard horses and saloons and cowboys and walking around and things such as that. And a guy had passed away, and they were doing all the usual tests they had back then. Stick a pin or a needle, say, in his toe, hold a mirror up to his mouth to see if his breath would collect, if the mirror would collect any steam from his breath, check for a pulse, different things like that. And as the show went on, it was pretty much guaranteed that the gentleman had passed away, and they were grieving, and they were getting ready for his funeral. And fast forward to the funeral day, and the minister is at the pulpit, and he's giving the eulogy. Just out of the blue, the guy just sits up in the casket. I don't remember much about the episode in detail, but this detail I remember quite clearly, and it has stuck with me. I am so sorry. I'm sleepy and yawning a lot, and this is not a very good show. I'm sorry. Anyhow, he sits up right in the middle of the casket. This has really stuck with me and always will. I found it quite amusing, and in quite a funny accent, much like at least my memory of it is much like Jethro was on the Beverly Hillbillies. Says something along the lines of, "What in tarnation is going on?" A very funny scene to me, and I got quite tickled because the Twilight Zone is an odd show. It's not supposed to be creepy or scary all the time, just different things. And to be honest with you, it was well done. I never for one time considered the possibility that the guy might actually be alive. That wasn't something that crossed my mind. Honestly, I didn't know what the catch was going to be, and it really did. It really caught me off guard, and I was amused by it. And this story kind of reminds me of that particular episode of Twilight Zone, when the family has already ID'd the body. He's obviously pronounced dead because he was badly disfigured. There was no doubt about that. And going, not just IDing the body and going through the mourning process, but actually having the funeral when the guy walks up to his own funeral. And if you hear noise, I'm actually going upstairs to get a drink. I'm coming back downstairs to my computer. I apologize. A kind of a funny story, and well, not funny. Anyhow, you know what I mean. Anyhow, I just thought, I remember when I was younger. I'm back at my desk. Thank you. I remember when I was younger, I would hear people talk about, what would you do if you were at your own funeral? I've seen bits in movies where people were talking about, wonder what people would say about me, things like that. Well, this gentleman actually had that and I'm sure his family was quite relieved to find out that their loved one had not passed. So, another story I thought I would share. Here's a story. It's just a short little story. It's about in Massachusetts about a special license to own cats. And I have a sad little story about a sweet little cat that's been a friend of my family's for quite some time. Basically, this comes to us from Dudley, Massachusetts. A Massachusetts town has made it illegal to own more than 3 cats without getting a special license. Voters at a town meeting in Dudley added language to a town bylaw on Monday night that makes it illegal to own more than 3 cats without a $50 residential kennel license. The article was in response to a neighborhood feud over 15 cats owned by Mary Ellen Richards. The Telegram and Gazette of Worcester reports that one neighbor claimed the cats have ruined his yard. Richards has put her home up for sale and says she plans to move to a more cat-friendly community. I thought that was kind of amusing. Let's see here. Just I guess I can understand that. I guess I usually don't do that much social commentary. At least I don't do as much social commentary as I out loud on the show as I actually do in my mind. But I mean, I guess I can understand sometimes people will have 10, 20, 30 cats, and they get out and they cause damage to other people's yards, and they smell and things like that. But I really don't know if there's a magic number that needs to actually be people have to be forced to only have a certain amount of cats without paying fines or getting a license. I think maybe it should be a situation where you do it on an as-is basis. If someone can have 10 cats in their house and it doesn't have any effect on anyone else, then I really don't see where it matters. But if they have 4 cats and it's causing all kinds of problems in the neighborhood, then maybe it needs to be looked into. Anyhow, I'm not really sure exactly how I feel on charging them $50 for a kennel license, but I think it's kind of silly to put your home up for sale and move just because of a law like that. So anyhow, on to the story about Larry Joe. He's a cat. My mother and father live about 10 miles south of where I live here in Greensboro, North Carolina. And they're next door neighbors, Gene and Virginia. Wonderful people, and had a very sweet cat named Larry Joe. My father is not an animal person. My father doesn't really like animals, doesn't dislike them. It's just he's not really an animal lover. I, on the other hand, very much am. I love dogs. Our show mascot is Bella, my beautiful pit bull. If you go to our Incoherent Ramblings site, you will see a picture of her. She is our mascot. My father is not an animal lover, and he still had very fond feelings for this little cat. Very sweet cat, gentle, a loving cat, not one of the cats that's always biting and scratching people and things such as that. And he passed away yesterday. His owners were actually out of state, and my father and their daughter came over, and my father they lived out in the country. He dug a grave and laid him to rest, and they put some rocks up on his grave and stuff like that. And, my father was actually crying when he told me about it. And, some people may not think there's any significance to that, but if you knew my father, you would know that there was, because he doesn't really cry that often, and he sure doesn't cry over an animal. So, Larry Joe, or as we called him, Lawrence Joseph, sweet little cat, and he's been laid to rest, and we will miss him. Speaking of animals, and this is a little bit darker than we usually have on our show, but let's keep in mind, we have had this. This is a follow-up. This is a follow-up story. We had this story on our show, and now here's a follow-up. South Carolina man gets 3 years in prison for sex with horse. Conway, South Carolina, a man caught having sex with a horse in South Carolina's stable has been sentenced to 3 years in prison. Multiple media outlets report that Rodell Vereen was sentenced Wednesday after pleading guilty to buggery. I'm not making that up. He pled guilty to buggery. A judge also ordered Vereen to get counseling and stay away from the Lazy Bee stables when he's released. Authorities charged Vereen, 50, after a woman set up a surveillance camera and caught him on tape having sex with her horse in July. Horse owner Barbara Kinley says she had noticed her 21-year-old horse Sugar was acting strangely. She also noticed things had been moved around near the horse's stall at her stables. She said she staked out the stable and caught Vereen sneaking into the barn days later, holding him at shotgun point until police arrived. Kinley had seen Vereen before. He pleaded guilty last year to having sex with the same horse and was put on probation and ordered to register as a sex offender. Vereen has had mental problems for several years, and I have to say, you think? But seemed to be getting better after court-ordered treatment last year, said his brother, the Reverend James Vereen, in earlier interviews. The brother lives just down the street from his brother and the stables. He's done all right when he was on his medicine. I don't know if he's still taking it, said James Vereen in a July interview. County police don't often investigate animal sex allegations, spokesman Sergeant Robert Kegler said. He said the last person charged with buggery in the county was Rodell Vereen in late 2007 with the same horse. Kinley says she caught him then too. She stopped by her stable on Thanksgiving Day and found the man asleep in the hay by her horse. Not really a story that I really would like to run on the show, but it was a follow-up to the story we had when it broke back in July. This gentleman obviously is mentally perturbed and disturbed, and I'm not sure he's really fit. I don't know if he needs to be in prison, but he does need to be maybe institutionalized. And he may not be safe to live in society. That I'm not sure of. He may also, in addition to keeping him away from the stable, may also want to keep him away from just throwing that out there. A couple weeks ago we had a story about a motorized recliner. Well, here's another follow-up. Same story, same chair. It's equipped with a stereo, headlights, and a cup holder, if you remember from our original story. Police in Minnesota have had to start over again on an online auction for a motorized easy chair used by a man who pleaded guilty to driving it drunk. The police department had to repost the chair after eBay notified the department that it was not a Lazy Boy brand as stated. It has been reposted as the DWI chair. Police Chief Walter Wobig is worried that the city of 3,000 will lose a big chunk of revenue, though. The first time the department received bids topping 43,000 after the chair story circulated. But by early Tuesday, bids were up to just 6,800. The recliner, powered by a lawnmower engine, comes equipped with a stereo, a cup holder, and lights. Its former owner had pleaded guilty to operating it while intoxicated. And if you can go out and actually, if you do a quick Google search for it, you'll find it. There's a good picture of it on MSNBC today. It's quite amusing. It is a recliner. It's got the steering wheel. It's got, it has headlights. It has a cup holder. And it has a stereo, and it even has what looks to be like a magazine rack. So and the guy that owned it actually went to the bar in it, got drunk, and was driving it away from the bar and like smashed up some cars. So that leads me to giving a shout out to the unofficial sponsor to the Incoherent Ramblings of C&E, Hover-Round.
Hey, Bernice and Joy, tell everyone which power wheelchair got you to the Grand Canyon.
Hover-Round. Now I'm free to see the world.
With a Hover-Round, you truly are free to see the world. Hover-Round's award-winning compact round design makes it the most maneuverable power chair in the world. And because it's portable enough to easily fit in a car trunk and powerful enough to pull a 2-ton van, Hover-Round gives you the freedom to go almost anywhere, even the Grand Canyon. Find out if a Hover-Round is right for you. Call one of our friendly mobility specialists for a...
There you go, our unofficial show sponsor, Hover-Round. If you've been listening to our show for a while, you know it's a running thing with us. And if you go back and listen to some past episodes, you'll see that we've had quite a few stories about Hover-Rounds, mobility scooters, lawnmowers, running lawnmowers with bar stools, old ladies falling asleep on their Hover-Round and waking up 5 miles away from where they originally started, things such as that. We find it humorous, so that's why we bring these stories to you. I've heard of children stealing from their parents, maybe a young man going into his father's wallet, stealing some money. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not quite that innocent. Sometimes it may be an older child that is addicted to some chemical dependent, and they may steal from their parents or family members. Here's the story in reverse, where a mom stole from her daughter. Bedford, Pennsylvania. In exchange for no jail time, a woman and her adult daughter have agreed to stand outside a Pennsylvania courthouse holding signs saying they stole a gift card from a 9-year-old girl on her birthday. Oh, it was a mom and daughter, not a mom stealing from her daughter. I'm sorry. 56-year-old Evelyn Border and 35-year-old Tina Griekspoor stood outside the courthouse for 4.5 hours Tuesday. They held up signs that read, "I stole from a 9-year-old girl on her birthday. Don't steal or this could happen to you." Because the women agreed to hold the signs, Bedford County District Attorney Bill Higgins said he'll ask for probation instead of jail time when they plead guilty to the theft. Higgins said they swiped a card from the girls that the girl set on a shelf while a Walmart employee helped her. The girl's mother planned to drive by the courthouse to teach her daughter the importance of obeying the law. So, I mean, you know what? There's some ladies, they stole from someone. 9-year-old child or 90-year-old person, doesn't matter. You shouldn't steal. And they're paying the consequence willingly. And they're not going to have more consequences. And I think that's a fair enough, they get some humiliation. And then there's a life lesson for the girl who's going to go by and see them, and her mother's going to be like, see, you don't want to steal because if you do, you grow up to be like these women. Speaking of stealing, I have a story here about a man who steals his ambulance when steals an ambulance after nobody would give him a ride to pick up his car. A 31-year-old Detroit man was stranded at a southeast Michigan hospital. He was arraigned Monday after he stole an ambulance to get back to his car. Police said Marcus Belgrave, Jr. stole the ambulance from the St. John River District Hospital in St. Clair County's East China Township on Saturday night after people inside the facility refused to give him a ride to St. Clair, where his vehicle was located. Michigan State Police Sergeant Craig Nieholt told the Times-Herald that the man fled in an ambulance left idling outside the emergency room, but was arrested a short time later. They did not know why he was at the hospital. A couple weeks ago we had a story about a gentleman that, well, not necessarily a gentleman, but about a guy who stole an ambulance, and he was right in front of the police station. That was not smart, because obviously police were on hand to track him down and bring him to justice. Well, this guy, for whatever reason, hanging out at the hospital, trying to bum a ride off, get someone to take him to pick up his car. They won't do it, so he steals an ambulance. Maybe he should have to sit out in front of the hospital saying, I stole an ambulance. If you do the same, this will happen to you, like the ladies in the story before. Who knows? I don't want to offend any of our listeners that may be in the New York area, or, regardless of where you live, if you're a Yankees fan. I am not. I do not like the New York Yankees. Never have. And because of a personal experience in my life, I don't have any use for New York. And it's not fair to New York, the state or the city. I have been there, but it's not fair. They really have no control over the situation that happened to me, but not really a big fan. But still, I love baseball. The Yankees are awesome. There's no denying that. So congratulations to the Yankees organization and the state of New York and all of their fans worldwide. However, someone has made a little bit of a boo-boo. A Philadelphia newspaper has apologized to readers for mistakenly running an ad congratulating the Phillies on winning back-to-back World Series titles. The Yankees held a commanding 3-1 lead in the championship as of Monday, the day the ad was printed. The three-quarter page Macy's ad is on the back of the front section and features a T-shirt with the Phillies logo, the Commissioner's Trophy, and the phrase, back-to-back World Series champions. The Inquirer released a message to readers saying the paper deeply regrets the error. A little bit of a boo-boo. They said they won it even before the series was over. Obviously, it's an error, but I don't know how it was made. I don't know how that was not caught prior to going to press. Nonetheless, if you watch the game, you will see that the obvious hero was Matsui, Hideki Matsui. He, of the 7 runs, he was responsible for batting in 6 of them. Had 6 RBIs on the night. A single that scored 2. A double that scored 2. And then a home run that scored 2. Pretty amazing night for him. He's a good player. Bats their DH spot. So obviously he wasn't playing so much in Philadelphia, the National League part. But he just had an outstanding game. But they had an outstanding season and postseason. Derek Jeter is still awesome. At the beginning of the year, there were some people that were questioning his ability to play at an elite level, and I heard them. I heard them on TV. I heard them on radio. I read them in print. I read them in paper print and electronic print, and I'm thinking these people should feel very foolish because he had an outstanding year. Just a very talented ball player that is actually quite fun to watch play. Watching him turn double play is good, but I'm going to tell you what, watching him throw someone out at first, when he catches that ball, throws it in full stride across his body, that's as good as about anybody is in baseball at that position. And also, here in Greensboro, North Carolina. We used to have a team that he actually played for. It was the Yankees Farm Club, and he played here in Greensboro. And I was going to the games a lot at the time, and he was a gentleman. He was very nice, and he was also very gracious to the kids that were asking for autographs. So congratulations to the Yankees and Matt Suey, who obviously had an amazing game, but then to Derek Jeter, who defied all the naysayers and had an amazing year, amazing season. We have a lot of stories here on our show about drinking and driving, things that happen that are either weird or funny or interesting because someone was either drunk or on their way to being drunk and trying to accomplish something they had no business doing while in that state of mind. Well, here's a funny little story I found quite amusing. A driver calls 911 on herself. Yes, you heard that right. This comes to us from Neillsville, Wisconsin, or as they say, Wisconsin. The call came in to the 911 dispatcher. I don't want to hurt anybody. I'm drunk. And with that, Mary Stray, 49, of Granton, reported herself as a drunken driver about 3 miles northeast of Neillsville in central Wisconsin. Clark County Sheriff's Chief Deputy Jim Backus said Monday that Stray's call on October 24th led deputies to cite her for misdemeanor drunken driving with a blood alcohol level double the legal limit to drive. She makes her first court appearance December 10th. Backus said drunken drivers reporting themselves is rare. In the 911 call, Stray said she wanted to report a drunken driver, and the dispatcher asked if she was behind the suspect vehicle. She said, I am them. Is that even proper English? She then followed the dispatcher's advice to pull over and turn on her flashers, telling him she had been drinking all night long. So, some people when they drink, they get nostalgic. Some people get mean. Some people get funny. Some people get really calm. A lot of different things. Apparently, this lady got a little morality conscious when she got drunk and decided to turn herself in. I applaud her not wanting to hurt anybody, but perhaps maybe she should have just pulled off the side of the road and just left it off. Who knows? She might get some leniency from the court, being that she did take that action, though. It might be taken into consideration. Here's a strange thing. This comes to us from the country of Cyprus. I think Nicosia. Cyprus police arrested a Greek man for allegedly opening the rear exit of an airplane and sliding down an emergency chute as the plane was preparing to take off. Marino Tavares, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, is being held for questioning on a 4-day court detention order issued Monday. The 28-year-old seller, oh my goodness, I can't talk. The 28-year-old sailor faces charges of causing damage to an aircraft. He is suspected of exiting the Athens-bound Cyprus Airways A320 jet Saturday night, just moments after the captain ordered the crew to lock the doors. Police say the man claimed he wanted to see if the aircraft's safety systems were working properly. They say after leaving the plane, he jumped a fence at the international airport before police caught up with him. I'm thinking this guy may be a little either extremely rebellious or mentally unstable. But this does remind me, he's claiming he wanted to test the airplane's safety system. This reminds me of something that happened actually here in Greensboro, North Carolina. Post 9/11, obviously, our security was heightened. Obviously, the TSA was created, and a few other, the Homeland Security Agency was created. And we had a heightened sense of security, we still do, but for certainly days, weeks, and even months after 9/11 happened, there was a heightened sense of security. And some people thought it was like they were doing, I don't know if they thought they were actually honestly doing the right thing by trying to expose leaks or holes in security, or if they're just know-it-alls and they're trying to, one-up or show up someone. I don't know what it is. The guy I'm getting ready to talk about, I'm pretty sure was just a know-it-all and a jerk, and it was an embarrassing story because it happened right here in Greensboro. He actually went to Gilbert College, which is a school here in Greensboro, North Carolina. A fine school, I might add. He decided to try to, and I don't remember the exact specifics, he was either trying to sneak in, I think it was a box cutter or some sharp knife that he got on the plane. And he was doing it in the interest of trying to improve security. Well, you really think you, as one individual, some know-it-all, poopy britches, is going to be capable of improving security for all of us? I don't think so. Anyhow, this guy in Cyprus decides he's going to open the door as the plane's getting ready to take off. Not only was that not very smart, but he could have injured himself or other people. So, odd things going on. Well, here in America, we do we do things to excess. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's embarrassing. Sometimes it is basically, I'm sorry, I apologize. Getting sidetracked here. I'm back. Sometimes it's embarrassing because we have people starving all around the world. And then we have food, and then more food, and then more food, and we waste food, and we have family gatherings, and we have restaurants that, basically take pride in enormous amounts of food. Well, the following is a story that I found interesting, but it's also a little exorbitant and I think kind of unnecessary. But I like beef. If you listen to the show on a regular basis, I like beef. Eric likes beef. And, well, not just beef, we like to eat, period. But here is a New Hampshire restaurant was making an effort to beat the record meatball. The prior record was 198.6 pounds. That's 198.6 pounds of ground beef. Concord, New Hampshire. The bouncing mega meatball record has landed in the East Coast. Matthew Mitnitsky, owner of Nani's Italian Eatery in Concord, said Sunday that a 222.5-pound meatball was authenticated as the world's largest after being weighed by state weights and measure officials. A Guinness Book of World Records official confirmed the meatball as a record breaker as presented Mitnitsky with a plaque. The old record of 198.6 pounds was set just over a month ago after Los Angeles-based talk show host Jimmy Kimmel vowed to beat a record set in Mexico. That record, 109 pounds, was set in August. Mitnitsky said he got involved to bring the meatball back to the East Coast because that's where it originated. Hopefully, this meat was not wasted. Hopefully, it was put to good use and eaten. If not, that's a shame. That's a lot of good beef. I'm going to tell you what, I apologize again for Eric not being here, the show time changing, and me being out of it. I'm yawning, I'm tired. I'm stressed out with work, got a lot going on, and I just wanted to get in here and do the show. I figured, no, any show, some show is better than no show, but as poorly as this thing is going, maybe I should have just canceled this week. I don't know. Excuse me. Sometimes you're you catch a glimpse here. Okay, let me just start over. San Antonio, Texas. The Spurs are playing. They actually beat the Sacramento Kings 113-94. But a very strange thing happened. Manu Ginobili, we'll just call him that, showed off his quick hands capturing a bat. That was amazing, teammate Tony Parker said after the Spurs beat the Kings. The legend continues with Ginobili. Unbelievable. He's always doing crazy stuff. Late in the first period, a bat swooped in to the AT&T Center and descended onto the court. Players scattered and officials stopped play. The bat circled and left, only to return briefly. That's when Ginobili performed his Halloween trick, swatting the bat out of the air with a bare hand. He then carried the creature off the court to thunderous cheers. As the theme song to Batman played, a few Sacramento players applauded too. The trainer emerged to squirt sanitizer on Ginobili's hand. When you can't dunk anymore, you have to find a way to make it into the news, Ginobili said. So that's what I did. I grabbed the bat. I didn't think it was a big deal. On the court, Parker led the Spurs to 24 points and 7 assists, while Ginobili scored 13 points in a reserve role. He ended the first period with a driving layup at the buzzer. Richard Jefferson also added 21 points. The only performance anyone wanted to talk about was Ginobili's. The drummer that he marches to is sometimes a little bit different, Spurs coach Greg Popovich said. He never ceases to amaze me, and he did it again. The legend grows. It's incredible on Halloween night. You would call someone a liar if they told you that story. Then they go on to tell a little bit about the game and who made what shot and whatnot. But I thought that was kind of humorous. Here we have, today we have a movie review we're going to play here from a friend of the show. I don't even have it ready. I don't have it available. I apologize. Well, I kind of at a loss. Here it is, 4:49. Got 11 minutes left of the show, and I am out of material. That was poorly done. Here's a good news story. Hey, we didn't have one to start the show off with, so let's run with this. And this is a story I actually read about a little bit earlier today, heard about on TV. I've already mentioned the Yankees. Yes, they won the World Series. If you follow baseball or care anything about it, you either love them or you hate them. Love them or hate them. Their manager, Girardi, has done quite a nice deed. I'll just read the story as it's printed here from the source I'm reading it from. You win the Super Bowl, you go to Disneyland. You win the Indy 500, you drink the milk. You win the World Series, you help a car crash victim. If you're Joe Girardi, you do. Joe Girardi. Just hours after guiding the Yankees to their 27th World Series title, Girardi stopped to help a woman who had lost control of her car on the cross-country parkway and crashed into a wall. The guy wins the World Series. What does he do? He stops to help, says the county police officer, Kathleen Cristiano, who was among the first to arrive to the accident scene. It was totally surreal. According to the paper, Girardi had recently passed through a DUI checkpoint on the parkway where he was congratulated by Cristiano, who was one of the officers working the checkpoint. A short time later, a 911 call came in about an accident just up the road, so the policeman at the checkpoint left to help. By the time they arrived on the scene, Girardi had already helped a woman out of a crashed vehicle. He was jumping up and down, trying to flag me down. You don't expect him standing by a car accident trying to help. Why not? He's a regular guy like the rest of us. Girardi had to cross on foot the traffic-filled parkway from where he stopped his car and where the crash had occurred. Once help arrived, Girardi told them he had to get going. Cristiano and the crash victim, Marie Henry, both thanked Girardi and watched as he ran across traffic to reach his car. He could have gotten killed, County Sergeant Thomas McGurn said, adding the responding police unit takes extra precaution in that area because of the blind curve and speeding cars. Traffic goes by at 80 miles an hour. So basically, kudos to the Yankees and their manager, Joe Girardi, for stopping and helping a car crash victim out in her time of need. So that's a good story. Let's see, can we find anything else real time? Well, we rarely discuss financial news, but I will go ahead and say that the Dow has jumped 204 points today. Tops 10,000 again. It hasn't been above 10,000 in quite some time, so that's kind of a neat thing. Unemployment is kind of doing a little bit better. There are plenty of people who are out of work that may disagree with that. However, I think things are maybe looking a little bit better overall. Let's see here. I am embarrassed. I don't have anything more. You know what? We'll do our celebrity birthday. Okay. See what we can come up with there. November the 5th. Well, something we talked about last week, the Jonas Brothers, whom we all love. All of us are absolutely crazy about the Jonas Brothers. Well, today is Kevin Jonas. I'm hoping this is someone from the Jonas Brothers. I may have just embarrassed myself. I don't know. Let's see here. Kevin Jonas. Yes. Paul Kevin Jonas II, born November 5th, 1987, also known as Kevin Jonas and K2. He is a member of the Jonas Brothers, a pop rock band he created with his younger brothers, Joe and Nick. So I joke about him. I really know absolutely nothing about the Jonas Brothers. Let's see here. He was born in New Jersey. He's the son of Denise, a sign language teacher, and Paul Kevin, who's a songwriter, a musician, and a former ordained minister. As of July the 1st, he is engaged to longtime girlfriend Danielle DeLisa, a former hairdresser. To announce the engagement of Kevin and Danielle, his mother and father sent out the following email to members of the band's mailing list. Our hearts are filled with joy today, and we are happy to share with you that our son Kevin has asked Danielle for her hand in marriage. Her answer was yes, and it is such a blessing that she will be joining her family. Kevin and Danielle have not yet set a date family is very dear to us, and we have raised Kevin to be a wonderful man and husband. Please join us in our family's celebration and congratulating Kevin and Danielle. Thank you for all your support. The Jonas Brothers. I have heard that the Jonas Brothers are very popular here in America. But I've got news for you. They're even more popular in Germany. So here we go. Happy birthday to Kevin Jonas.
Sing es leise, sing es laut. Du hast Geburtstag, oh ja, schaut. Sing es kurz und auch mal lang. Und alle singen welch Einklang. Happy, happy birthday, welch schöner Tag. Happy, happy birthday, oh wie ich dich mag. Happy, happy birthday, welch schöner Tag. Happy, happy birthday, oh wie ich dich mag. Sing.
There we go. Haven't played that song in a while. Horrible song. I don't even know where to go. We only have about 2 minutes left. So, hey, you know what? Thank you for joining us. Stuck in the 70s. I apologize. You're going to miss this show at its usual live time. And at the same time, I'm going to say I'm glad you did, because it was horrible by myself, without Eric, without David to bounce off of. David sat in Eric's place last week. And without being my usual self. Anybody who's listening, if you've made it this far, thank you. Because this was not a good show. I'm tired, and I was unprepared. And thank you to all of our listeners. You guys are awesome. You make us want to do this show every week, and we really appreciate your loyalty. And you know, we get ideas, story ideas. We get input and feedback and suggestions every week from you guys. So keep it coming. And thank you so much. And hopefully we'll be back next week, and hopefully Eric will be here. Thank you for listening. Take care.
This has been Blog Talk Radio's The Incoherent Ramblings of C&E. Christopher and Eric are your hosts, and we would like to thank you for listening to our show today. Don't forget to tune in for next week's show, live from Greensboro, North Carolina, as we are every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, Bernice and Joy, tell everyone which power wheelchair got you to the Grand Canyon.
I'm a